You're standing in the passport control line after a long flight. Behind you are exhausted travelers. In front of you is a U.S. Customs and Border Protection officer. You hand over your green card, the one you waited years for, paid thousands in fees to obtain, and built your life around. The officer scans it, looks at the screen, then looks back up at you. How long were you outside the United States? Your heart starts racing. You answer honestly, about 6 months, maybe a little more. You were caring for a sick parent, finishing a degree, or handling urgent family matters. Real reasons, human reasons. But the officer's expression changes. You're asked to step aside and follow them into another room, secondary inspection. In that moment, what felt like a routine return suddenly feels uncertain. Your job, your home, and your future all feel like they're hanging in the balance. This is not a scare story. This is something many green card holders experience, especially now as border screening has become more data-driven and detailed. Travel histories are clearer, patterns are easier to spot, and officers can ask tougher questions when something doesn't seem to add up. Before going any further, it's important to clear up a major misconception. Green card holders are not automatically banned from travel, despite what panic-filled posts on social media may suggest. However, increased scrutiny is very real, and misunderstandings at the border can still have serious consequences if you're not prepared. What's actually happening is that immigration authorities now have a much clearer picture of when you leave, when you return, and how often you travel. The technology itself doesn't change the law, but it makes it easier to identify long absences, repeated extended trips, or patterns that suggest the United States might not be your primary home. And that's the key issue for permanent residents. A green card is not just a plastic card with an expiration date. Permanent residence is a status based on where your life is centered. The expectation is that the United States is your main home, not a place you visit occasionally while living elsewhere. This is where many people get caught off guard. If you are outside the United States for around 6 months, immigration officers are allowed to ask more detailed questions when you return. That time frame doesn't automatically cancel your status, but it does raise scrutiny. You may be treated as someone requesting re-entry rather than simply resuming residence. If you remain outside the United States for a year or longer without proper planning, the situation becomes much more complicated and returning can be far more difficult. What surprises most people is this: even trips shorter than 6 months can still cause problems if your overall life appears to have shifted abroad. Officers don't just count days, they look at the full picture. That picture may include where you work, where your immediate family lives, whether you maintain a U.S. home, how you file your taxes, whether your driver's license is active, and whether your financial activity shows an ongoing life in the United States. The unspoken question is always the same. Is the U.S. clearly your home, or does it look like a backup plan? Here's how this can play out in real life. You travel abroad to care for a parent. 1 month becomes 2, then 4. You're still under 6 months, so you assume you're safe. But during that time, you left your U.S. job, subleased your apartment, moved your children temporarily into school abroad, and changed how you handled taxes. Even if you return before 6 months, those actions can suggest that your life was shifting away from the United States. The issue isn't your intention, it's how your situation looks on paper. This is where a lot of misinformation causes harm. Short trips are usually fine when your U.S. ties remain strong. 2 months abroad to visit family is rarely an issue by itself. 6 months is not an automatic cutoff, and being admitted once after a long trip doesn't guarantee that the issue won't come up again later, including during future applications. So, how do you protect yourself? First, keep trips under 6 months whenever possible. If you can return earlier, do so. Avoid pushing right up against the limit unless absolutely necessary. Second, if you expect a long trip, plan before you leave. There are documents available for extended absences, but they usually must be requested while you are still in the United States. Waiting until after you leave can remove options. Third, maintain clear ties to the United States while you are abroad. Continue paying rent or a mortgage, keep bank accounts active, maintain appropriate tax filings, keep identification current, and preserve evidence that your time outside the country is temporary. Fourth, when returning from a longer absence, carry basic documentation that shows your life remains anchored in the United States. You may never need to show it, but having it ready can make a difference if questions arise. Fifth, be honest and consistent at the airport. Do not guess about dates or exaggerate reasons. Officers have access to travel records, and inconsistencies can create unnecessary complications. Sixth, understand what it means to give up permanent residence. There are forms that record voluntary abandonment of status. Signing one means giving up your green card. Do not sign anything you do not understand, especially when tired or under pressure. If you are already outside the United States and worried that you have been away too long, it's important to seek proper guidance as soon as possible. Some situations can still be resolved, but they are often complex and require strong evidence. Also, keep in mind that even if long travel does not cost you your green card, it can delay future goals, such as applying for U.S. citizenship. Continuous residence matters, and extended trips can reset timelines. The reality today is that border screening relies more on data, patterns, and documentation than ever before. That doesn't mean travel is impossible. It means preparation matters more. Your green card represents years of effort, expense, and planning. Protecting it comes down to understanding the expectations, planning travel carefully, maintaining real ties to the United States, and getting professional advice when your situation is not simple. This information is educational, not legal advice. If you are planning extended travel or have had long absences, speaking with a qualified immigration professional before you travel can help you avoid serious problems later. Your future in the United States deserves that level of care and preparation.